So, start your printed photo organizing journey. Many of you have probably already started yourself, and sometimes you get stuck. Sometimes you're not sure where to go next, and sometimes we just get frustrated and tired. I mean, I know when I start a long project, sometimes I try to do too much at one time, and then I never want to go back to it. So hopefully that is not the case. But I want to encourage you to keep going if it is. So I guess I would challenge you to say, where are your photos right now? Where are your printed photos? I mean, I know for me, this actually was a personal picture on here. I had them in albums. This was a very old album that's up there. I had loose photos. I had, of course, slides and negatives and reel-to-reel film. I got into being a photo manager because my dad passed away, and him and his father were prolific amateur photographers. They took pictures of everything, and I just inherited boxes and boxes and bags and trunks, really, in their cases, in really nice photo cases of all different types of media. And I started to make heads or tails out of them. And I really found a love of putting the puzzle pieces of my family together. And through that, I found the photo managers. And I became a certified photo manager in 2016. So I'm over 10 years as a certified photo manager, helping clients both in my area and also all over the United States as well as internationally. I do have some international clients, both with their print and digital photos. So it's a passion for me. But I know I've heard from many clients that they have photos that are under their bed or in their attic or in a garage, storage facility they're paying money for. But just know you are not alone. It is very common theme to have boxes and boxes of photos. So, as I mentioned, my name is Rhoda, and I'm a certified photo manager. And my fun fact is I help people avoid digital spaghetti. And what does that mean? It means I help people avoid going right to digitizing their photos because they're frustrated of having them in their closet or their storage facility and they just ship them out. But if you don't make heads or tails, or if you don't organize your print photos before you send them out, literally what you get back is just files and files and files that are named unintelligently, all named the same, whether it's IMG or something like that, with a index number behind it. And you can't make heads or tails of what is in the file unless you open them up. And it's okay if you only had 10 photos, but most people have 1,000 or more. And to go through 1,000 photos just to find that one you're looking for is going through digital spaghetti. So I vow to help people avoid that. And that is why I created Dig Your Photos. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I really was finding that I was helping clients over and over again with their digital photos that were originally print that they had scanned, and they were just getting frustrated because they realized they created a bigger mess. And I didn't want them to be wasting their time going through it or their money because they had definitely scanned things that didn't need to be scanned, so they paid someone to scan them. Um, and then they couldn't really use that database anyway, their database of photos. So I wanted to get them up front and help people understand how to organize their own print photos with a easy and fun way. And so I set about trying to create Dig Your Photos. And the way that it came to me was actually in a dream, a very vivid dream I had. And I wanted to make it light and fun, but almost like a game where you move from one section to another. So I'll show you that in a little bit, but that is a little tease. And you can see here, Dig Your Photos will help you go from a box of disorganized photos, which I have one behind me. When we'll take off the slides, I'll show you, to an organized box of photos, and then eventually to archival safe storage so that you can always go back and revisit your photos. But why is organizing our photos so hard? Well, let's just call it what it is because there's so many factors at play. I mean, there's the emotional side. Sometimes photos bring up emotions and we know they're going to bring up emotions, but maybe we're not comfortable feeling those emotions yet, or we really just don't want to go back down that road, so we avoid it. And that's okay. Everybody in their own time. But what I hear most from my clients, especially if I'm helping them and we're going through photos that are bringing up those emotions, is that it is so cathartic and rewarding to them in the end to go through it and relook at those photos with time behind you. And so sometimes it's good to face those emotions. Also, what I hear from clients is that there's just no clear starting point. So they don't know how to get started. There's nobody pointing the way on how to attack such large collections of print photos. Digital for that matter, but we're going to focus on print right now. And there's also this fear of doing it wrong. What if I get started and then I invest all my time and only to find out I started doing it wrong and I can't backtrack? I might have done some damage. And so all these things really stop people from moving forward or creating momentum to move forward. And I'm telling you, it's not rocket science. I'm actually an engineer and I have worked in that field, but it is not rocket science. It is just a methodology and tools, and that's all you'll need. And it's not hard. But what it really comes down to is it's not clutter. It's not like cleaning out the junk drawer. This is your life, so you want to get it right. So in talking about digital spaghetti, this is what I would just like to caution you. The biggest mistake is getting really frustrated and sending your chaotic photos, your box of photos that have not been gone through to a scanning company. I'm not saying that scanning companies are bad or wrong. I'm absolutely not. I believe in digitizing your photos. It's very important to create a backup, but do not scan them first because then you're going to get back that digital spaghetti. And don't just jump in and start organizing chronologically first. Understand what the methodology is and do the steps before so that you can pare down your collection before you start organizing chronologically. It'll make it so much easier. And don't try to do everything in one sitting, because then that's that fatigue that I talked about earlier, where you overdid it, and now you just remember how tired you were and fatigued at the end, and you don't want to go back to it. So that's what not to do. But we're going to talk about what to do. So the one thing to remember, and I think this is really, really important, and I always talk with my clients about it, is you do not have to organize everything, not at one time. You just have to begin and see the progress and feel the progress and understand your successes. Okay. So I'm gonna actually stop sharing the screen right now, and I'm gonna talk with you about the methodology and where to begin and what to do. So with Dig Your Photos, it's a four-step process, and we'll go through the process. But what I'd like to do is first have everyone think before you start the process, before you even touch a photo, before you even gather your photos, which is actually the first step. Think about why you're doing it. And I think this is in all projects, right? We want to do a project. Why are we doing the project? So think about what your goal is. And everybody here, I mean, how many people are here? Um, somewhere around 20, whatever. You each might have a different goal. One person, maybe their daughter is getting married and they want to create a beautiful, beautiful slideshow with the best of the best photos. That's an amazing goal and a really good reason to organize your photos because you need to find them. And someone else may be moving next year or downsizing and they want to pare down their collection as a whole so that they're not moving with all the boxes again and again. And someone else just may want to just get organized. So there's so many different reasons. And based on your goal, you're possibly going to be attacking how you organize in a different way. So I always work with my clients on really defining the goal for the project. Why are you doing the project? And also having them write it down because it's important to have it written down. Then you can go back to it at each step and understand how it drives what you're doing. Okay. So just have that in the back of your mind. What is my goal? What is my goal for organizing my photos? And you could have multiple goals, multi layers of goals. Maybe your original goal is to organize your entire collection, but your short-term goal is to create that slideshow. Totally okay. That's fine. Both of them will be your driving force. So, okay, once you have a goal, then there is a four-step process. And I will kind of go over the process while I show you dig your photos. But before I even do that, I have a table set up behind me, and I'm going to bring my whole laptop over to show you. Won't drag my mic away though. So if you can see here, I still have a disorganized box of photos, probably like all of you, different photos. Yeah, that's my original baby. I have three of them. And it's just a mess. And then Dig Your Photos will actually bring you to having an organized, categorized collection. And you can use the box to temporarily store 1,275 photos. And then eventually you want to get to ah, you want to get to storing it in archival safe storage and all organized. And all that information is available through Dig Your Photos. So this is Dig Your Photos. It is a print photo organizing kit. It has affirmations because I believe that everyone can do it. Especially the one thing I'll say is, and I organize people's photos every week, day in and day out. And the best person to organize their own print photos is the person who owns the photos. You know the people, you know the ticklers that are in the background, what house it was, you know all of that. So you are the best person to organize your print photos. And don't let your memories fade away. So what's inside Dig Your Photos? It comes with instructions of the contents actually, and then how to set up your area. So let's just talk for a minute on how to set up your area for organizing. Your area for organizing should be a place where you can come back to it because again, as I said, I don't want you to become too fatigued. So my recommendation is not to work more than an hour to an hour and a half at a time, especially in the beginning. So you want to set up an area where you bring everything during the first phase, hunt and gather, but you bring everything to that one area and it can be left up for a little while, maybe a few weeks. So if you don't use your dining room table, that's a great place. If you have a guest room, I know I had one user, Dig Your Photos, she set up uh, her area on a twin bed that's in her guest room. She put down a tablecloth on it and just put a chair next to it, and that's where she did all her work. And then I have other clients who set up card tables or 6-foot tables in other areas of their house. So if you have a mudroom, you might have some counter space, and that's where you set it up. Totally all good. But you need an area to do your work. And then it just basically says what's included in the box and how to use it. So I'll show you. In Dig Your Photos in the kit, you'll see this. It's called Recipe and Sort Cards. And so there are 4 recipe cards. They are your instructions for each of the steps. So there's 4 steps, 4 easy steps to go through. And there are 4 recipe cards. They're color coded. The first step is hunt and gather, and I'm just going to show you how the cards are set up. There's an A side, which is okay, an A side over here, and a B side over here. The A side tells you why you're doing that step, and the B side tells you how to do that step. And each card comes with a QR code that leads to a video of 5 minutes or less of me demonstrating that step. So let's talk about the first step. The first step is hunt and gather. Again, this goes back to your goal. You're going to be looking for all the photos that have to do with your goal. So let's say your goal was to create a slideshow. Somebody's getting married, somebody's graduating, whatever it is, of one of your children. You're probably going to be looking at the photos that you have categorized already as the best of the best, right? So to look for those photos, to gather them, you're going to be looking at your albums and your frames, and then maybe some drawers where you always keep the best photos in drawers. If your goal is to really downsize and organize your whole collection, you're going to be going on a scavenger hunt throughout your house. And you're going to be looking in the closets. You're going to be looking under bed. You're going to be collecting all the albums, everything, all the boxes, wherever you have stored them, including going out to the garage and looking in the attic and the storage facility. And maybe even your Aunt Jean's house, if that's where you stored some things, it's okay. But bring them all into one place so that you can really do an assessment and see what you have and be honest about how long it might take you because you don't want to undersell it, if it's an entire collection. You want to really understand what you have and break it up into piece parts to make it manageable. Now, just I was thinking of something well, I was talking, we weren't chatting, but um, the one thing to remember is if you do have photos in the attic or in the basement or in your garage, really photos should live where you live, meaning a temperature controlled place. So, um, if they are in the garage, I would recommend that you get them into the house because heat and humidity are really damaging to your photos. They are going to degrade them at a much faster rate. So just think about that. So, first step, gather all your photos based on your goal into one place. Now, included in that step is taking all the photos out of an album. So get them so that they look like photos stacked up. So you could take each photo out of your albums, and I would keep those photos together because they've already been curated. They're all probably from the same time or about the same person or from a trip. So people tend to create albums based on theme. So keep the photos from each album together, and you can put a little note card on it and say where it's from at that point. But you just want everything on your table or bed or wherever you're organizing. Now, the second step is quick sort decision making. And this is my favorite step. And honestly, you should do every step in this methodology, but if you only get here, you are going to pare down your collection by half. It is it is genius as far as how it makes it just so easy to pare down your collection. And the crux of it is there are these sort cards: gold, silver, bronze, and trash. And before I even explain what the cards are, this is what you do in that step, the quick decision making. You literally take a stack of photos, you know, maybe like 100 photos, and you look at it, and probably within 2 seconds, you instinctively know where it belongs in one of those four piles. And you just go ahead and you do that, and you will be amazed at how quickly you can decide where it goes and what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. So, what is what do the four piles represent? So, gold pile is your best of the best. These are the photos that you are going to want to access way more frequently than every other photo. And if you were considering creating a gallery or putting things in frames or maybe producing a new photo album or photo book, if you digitize it, these are the photos that would go in that. Okay. So when your daughter calls you and says, "Do you remember when I had my first birthday and blah, blah, blah?" You know where to get the photo from that. It's in the gold. What goes in the silver? The silver are really important photos to support the journey of your life, right? So these are important photos, but you're not going to access them quite as frequently. Maybe only once or twice a year. Maybe at Mother's Day when the kids come and they want to look at their pictures with you as their mom, and maybe at Thanksgiving or just when you're all together looking at photos. So that goes in the silver pile. Now, what goes in bronze? Well, it's interesting. Bronze are photos that may not even mean anything if you didn't know the story behind it. Like, I'll actually give an example. I gave an in-person workshop with Dig Your Photos last Friday. I have plenty of stories from that because every time you work with people, you get great stories. So I actually had each person pick out a photo from their box before we even started. It was an icebreaker and share why that photo is meaningful. And this woman, she picked up a picture. It was literally a picture of a brick house, nothing else in it. I mean, there was some landscaping, but there's no people, no dog, nothing. And she said, "This picture is important to me because this is the house that I met my husband in." Now, they didn't live there. He didn't live there. She didn't live there. They met at a party, but they have a picture of that house. And so it's meaningful to her, hopefully to them. And it's a story that she passes down to her kids. But had she not been organizing the photos, or maybe if those photos had been passed down to a child, they would have thrown out that photo and not known the story behind it. So they're few and far between, but there are some photos that will be like that. So you put them in the bronze pile so you remember to document the story and to pass it down. And then what's the last one? The last one is trash. You can call it anything you want to if you don't like the word trash. But this pile is everything that you don't really need anymore. So all the blurry photos that you've still been hanging on to, the photos of scenery that was important at the time and it's great, but we don't really need 12 photos of the Grand Canyon, maybe one or two. Um, how about the photos of all the animals in the zoo with no people in it? Because your child wanted you to take it and they loved it at the time when you would go through it after you got it developed. But now they're 35 and they don't need a picture of every animal in the zoo. So all of this goes into trash. And you can decide what to do with your trash pile, by the way. You can put it in a basket, seal it up, and put it on top of a closet. And if you don't look at it in a year, you could throw it out, or you could just decide to throw it out. Um, but I can guarantee you can go through this. If you can go through this, you will quickly pare down your collection. Maybe by half if you've never actually gone through your photos. Another story from Friday when I was doing the in-person workshop was quite a number of people brought albums. And that's great. I always say bring a shoebox of photos or a stack of albums. Albums sometimes can be tricky as far as feeling successful in this phase because you feel like I've already curated and I'm not going to pare it down. But that's not true. Even the people who brought albums, one of them brought her wedding album. It was homemade wedding album. It wasn't a photographer's wedding album. Wedding album and her honeymoon album. And she really didn't think she was going to pare down anything. She was like, my trash pile is going to be empty. And her trash pile was like this because she curated both of them, but in particular, I'll talk about the honeymoon album. She curated that in 1989. And so a lot of the things in her honeymoon album were scenery that she didn't really need anymore. It just wasn't pertinent to her life story anymore, unless there was a person in it. And she had that. She had the person in the scenery, but then they tried to get every picture of every place in Europe that they were, the monuments and the churches, and she just didn't need it. So even if you have a fully curated album, chances are you're going to pare down that particular album and you'll feel successful. I'm telling you, it feels good. It feels good to pare down your collection. So that's the quick decision making step. And then the next step also is really an amazing tool. I think it's actually the best tool if you're going to categorize chronologically, and that's creating an actual family timeline. So with Figure Photos, you get actually. You get access to this. It's online, so you can print out as many copies as you want. A family timeline template that has year, and then it gives you ticklers for different things that happens over the time. And with the instructions, it tells you how to fill it out. But literally, you see what your collection is. I mean, if it's your collection, you know the years that it goes from. So then you start with that. So if you know like it's from your marriage forward with your children. So you put the year you got married, and then you put all the important information, including where you lived and what pets you had and other important milestones. And if it was a parent's collection, then you know those years as well. So it's pertinent to the collection, the years. And then once you have all this data, and there's also a sample on there in case you want an example, there is a sample for you to look at. And then you take in the kit, you get an actual physical family timeline. Um, so you take your milestones and you this rolls out to 5 feet long, and you actually create the timeline. I have an example here. I'm back. So sorry, I right before you got on, I knocked everything off my desk. So here's an example timeline. It's hard to see, but you create this timeline. I'll just fold it here, and you can decorate it if you want to. Wedding, I don't know, 19, something else here. What does it say? Moved, where I moved to. Um, I think over here I got engaged. On this page, I graduated from college. So, um, different things. You create a full timeline. Again, this is 5 feet long. And then in the last phase, the last step, which is sorting by category, you use your timeline to actually physically place the photos where they belong. And you don't have to get down to the year. I like, no, you can get down to half decades, 1990 and 1995. This is where these photos belong. But, if it's when your kids were first born, you probably can tell the difference between when they were a newborn and when they were two. So you can get down in that way. But honestly, if you're organizing like a family member's photo that you inherited from a previous generation, you can go by generations. You can go by, you know, early childhood, high school, young marriage, things like that as well. So it's totally in your control. But when you're organizing on your family timeline, my recommendation, and it's of course in the instructions on how to do it, um, is to first take your gold pile, because I feel like you should always keep your best of the best separate and organize it on the timeline. And then we'll go through what tools you get, but you'll have note cards, and you'll use those note cards after it's all organized on the timeline to separate them by date or year, and and then stack them. And then you go do the exact same thing because same time period for your silver. And then you use note cards to also delineate them, um, and put them right, into the box. So as you see, this is Dig Your Photos kit. I pulled out the insert, and you can stack those photos you just categorized, 1,275 of them, back to back, um, categorized, as I showed you earlier over here. Um, so it's very convenient, and that I want to say that the Dig Your Photos box to sort them in is really just temporary storage until you have them scanned or move it to temporary storage. And it's meant to be used over and over again. So you can also use a shoebox if you want. If you're doing your whole collection and you want to have everything organized before you do anything else, use shoe boxes, use photo boxes that you could buy at a craft store, but you could also use the Dig Your Photos box if you're just doing one shoe box at a time. So also in Dig Your Photos, you get this handy dandy toolkit, which has all the tools a certified photo manager would use. So it includes cotton gloves, which I think are invaluable. I use them when I am not only sorting, but scanning my clients' photos because, first off, it protects the photos from any dirt or debris, and definitely some oils that are on your hands, just natural oil. And it also allows me to clean the photos because our photos, especially if they're in boxes, definitely have dust if and probably other stuff on it. So cleaning the photos is very important before you have them scanned because any piece of dust is going to be magnified once it's scanned, and then you'll have to have it um, edit it. Also, okay, we talked about taking your photos out of the albums. This is a palette knife. If you have certain types of albums, one of them is the magnetic albums. They're eating your photos from the back forward, and sometimes your photos will get stuck. So it's important to take them out of that album regardless because it's just not safe for your photos in there. But you gently use a palette knife to get your photos out of the album. It's also great. I know some of the older albums have like that cellophane tape around the photo. This will cut around the photo so you don't have to pull the tape off and damage the photo. This I use all the time. It's a magnifying glass. So it helps you find the cues in the background. I've looked at movie marquees in the background and looked up the movies. I've looked at what's on TV and news programs. I know other photo managers actually look up like registration on cars to see what year it was. Magnifying glass is your friend. And then you also get an archival safe pencil, which is important for writing on the back of photos. And it's will not damage your photo with harsh chemicals that pens or markers can sometimes have. And these are the note cards. You get a starter pack of note cards. Note cards are also good if you do find the photos that are the stories. Jot down the story right on a note card and keep it with the photo until you're ready to digitize, and then you can add it as either a caption or keyword or description. And lastly, this is a little known tool that is so invaluable. It's a gum eraser. And I think it's the best thing to get glue or tape residue off the back of photos. Especially, you find the tape if people put it up on like a wall or, kids stick it on their closet and then they pull off their favorite photo and there's all stickiness on the back. The gum eraser, you just do in a circular motion and it balls up all the glue and then you can brush it off. So this is a really good tool. So you get these 6 tools in the toolkit. And the last thing, which I think is really important with Dig Your Photos, is you get a card that tells you what's next and information. And that is a bunch of resources on a resource page that tells you what you do after you've organized your print photos, which of course is to digitize them now that they're organized and they can be named intelligently based on your categories. And also where to find archival safe storage because it's so important now that we've organized our photos and found the great ones to make sure they're protected from fading any further. And archival safe storage will definitely protect it from everything except for flood and fire. So uh, that is why we create a backup by digitizing our photos so that we can have another copy. Goals we talked about. Just going to hunt and gather, get everything in one place, do a quick sort, and think of it as a beat the clock type of exercise, 2 minutes. It's not necessarily the time to reminisce, but if you have to take a picture and send it to your best friend or your sister, it's okay. I love that because everything's from the heart when we talk about photos. Family timeline. Oh my gosh, my favorite tool that you can do on your own to help you organize your print photos. And then categorizing using the timeline, really important. And again, you can choose to organize by decade or event or by person, but I don't really like organizing by person. I feel like it trips people up in the end because there are photos with more than one person in it. So that's not my recommendation, but people do it. And then, of course, digitize because it creates a backup. You can restore your photos, and it gives really good accessibility and sharing.